The snow had just about melted in the high country. It was time to get out and see something new, so we loaded the truck and headed out on our next adventure. Join us as we explore a remote area of Idaho on our trip to Mackay Bar. Brought to you by Occidentalist Outdoors. All right, greetings from the Idaho backcountry.
It's beautiful.
We are going pretty remote for this quick little adventure. Headed out to Mackay Bar on the Salmon River, and we're about 4 hours into the drive so far.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't get much more remote than this. We've had one other vehicle on the road, and
Well, there's been some road crews cleaning up.
Yeah, there's
downed wood.
One saw crew back by Dixie, and nobody else since we turned off at Elk City. So, we're hoping there's a spot to stay down there because it's a long ways out, and there's only supposedly 3 campsites. So,
and hoping it's not snowed in the road because there's been snow along the sides.
Yeah, it's about as early as you can get in here. On a snowy year, probably not so much in early June, but it's a pretty day. Sun's out, and we're gonna start our descent now. We're up about 6,000 feet, and we're headed down the Salmon River, which I think is gonna be about 2,000. So it's gonna be an interesting ride. We'll see you out on the trail. The 4,000-foot descent down to the Salmon River begins innocently enough, but when you see the sign that recommends low-range four-wheel drive, it's a sign of things to come. The road isn't particularly difficult, but descending this much elevation is made a lot easier with low-range gears. After the slow descent, we found we had our pick of campsites, as we had the campground all to ourselves. Although there was someone camped further up the river at the Wilson Bar airstrip. The Mackay Bar campground features 3 sites that appear to not see much use according to the vegetation overgrowing the parking areas and picnic tables. It worked perfect for a night for us.
Okay, we made it down to Mackay Bar. Holy cats, that road.
It's not the worst road we've been on. It's
No.
it gets a little rockier and steeper as you get down to the bottom. So I definitely say don't come down this road if you don't have a low range. Not because you need 4-wheel drive, at least coming down, but you just need the low range so you can stay off your brakes. Lots of switchbacks and loose rock, but it's fine. There's nobody else on the road when we were coming down, so
Yeah,
nice day
thankfully
for a drive.
nobody else on the road.
So we figure we're just about 100 miles from home. It took us 6 hours to get that 100 miles. And what? We figured 60 of it was paved, 40 on a state highway, 20 on a county road. But the last part's a little slow going. But it's not a bad drive at all. We've been on way bumpier roads, so pretty nice.
Yeah, the great thing about roads like that is you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're just enjoying the scenery, and hopefully there's nobody else out there, so you get to enjoy the peace and quiet.
Yeah, so we got to the campground. There are 3 sites, or there used to be. There's a resemblance of 3 sites. We stayed in the middle one, or we're staying in the middle one. Looks like that one's probably been camped in the most, but
yeah,
by the most, like maybe once in the past year, twice in the past year, I don't know. But
yeah, surprisingly, the campground wasn't full when we got here.
There is somebody camping on the airstrip up above, so kind of interesting. They had their tent out by their plane, so that was kind of cool to see. Somebody flew in for a night of camping, and we're just gonna walk down, check out the Pack Bridge. There's a ranch down here, a guest ranch or outfitter lodge, however you want to think about it. Set you back a pretty penny if you want to come in on a jet boat to stay there, huh?
Yeah, just a little bit. You got to save up a little.
Yeah. 3-day steelhead trip for the lodge is $30,000 or so. So just yeah, but who needs to ask if you're going to come up here, right? So so we got a pretty valuable trip in today, and we're likely headed back out tomorrow. It was super hot when we got here, at least for the 1st of June, 95 degrees. And we're probably not going to stay around all day tomorrow. We got some more exploring to do on our way back. So
yeah.
All right, we'll see you out on the trail.
Well, we just made it up that hill. Oofta.
All right. I would take, in this case, the sign's advice, and you definitely need four-wheel drive for the climb out just because of loose rocks. It's not that burly of a road, but lots of loose rocks. And then for the drive down, low range, first and second gear, just because you don't want to ride your brakes all the way to the bottom, or you won't have any by the time you get to the bottom. So, yep, it's definitely a doable road. Lots of switchbacks, get you into a really cool spot. Yeah, that's the Mackay Bar Road. So I saw it on the map, couldn't resist checking it out.
Yikes.
All right, we thought we'd just do a quick flower ID on a few of the flowers we're seeing out here. Last video we had a request to get a little bit close up and how to identify a few of these. So we're going to start with a few obvious ones. This one's paintbrush. So paintbrush, this is the most common color, kind of a deepish red, and it gets its name kind of obviously from the idea that it looks like it's almost been a brush dipped in paint. The leaves are opposite, so they don't appear, they're alternate, so they alternate up the stem. So that's something to look for in any plant ID. So you're looking for an alternate leaf, but paintbrush is really easy to identify. You don't need to know much botany for that one. It does come in a variety of colors. Red's the most common one that I've seen. I've seen oranges, yellows, and even a green.
Yeah.
And so there you go, Indian paintbrush. Okay, another pretty easy to identify flower in the spring is arrowleaf balsam root, also known as Balsameriza sagittata for the scientific name. So it's found on kind of sunnier, drier hillsides, typically in the open. It needs a lot of sun. It kind of has a ray flower, or what somebody might call a similar to a sunflower. So they're always yellow, and the thing that's kind of the telltale is it comes out of a bunch, and you got the arrow leaf here. So longer than it is wide, and that's arrowleaf balsam root. Look for it in early spring. All right, we got another one here for you. This is arnica. You'll see this commonly in an understory. So underneath some trees, usually in the shade. It's a more shade tolerant plant. It does have the ray flower again. It's always yellow, and then it does have opposite leaves. So the leaves come out of the stem on opposing sides all the way up. So that's something to look for. It's got kind of a hairy stem, and then what I would call a heart-shaped leaf. So sometimes you'll even hear it called heartleaf arnica, and that's another one to look for kind of early summer. All right, we'll catch a flowering shrub here. This one's one you're going to find pretty well spread, and that's going to be serviceberry. Flowers with petals of 5 typically, although I think that can vary a little bit. But yeah, you know, one might have fallen off, something like that. But look for flowers with petals of 5. They're going to always be white. The thing to look for in serviceberry, especially because the flowers don't last all that long, is the actual leaf. So it's one of the few leaves that actually is serrated only partially, and so you'll see out towards the tip, hopefully, there's serrations along the edge. But when you get back to the back edge, there is no serration, and that's fairly unique. So if you know you're in the range of serviceberry and you see a partially serrated leaf, it's typically that's a good bet for ID. This is a typical kind of probably somewhat mature size shrub. It's we're kind of on a road bank here, so it looks a little taller than it is, but I don't know, they can be up to maybe 10-12 feet tall, maybe taller in some places where they get enough moisture, but look for something anywhere between like 4 and 10 feet typically. So that's your serviceberry. All right, here's a fun one you'll see typically early spring, but now we're up about 6,000 feet elevation, so I'm going to still call it early spring even in June. Right here is the trillium. You'll typically see them flowering more white, but you do see this kind of pinkish purple as well. The name should remind you how you identify them. Tri or trillium. You've got the 3 leaves. They're all whorled, so they come off the branch at the same spot. The 3 petals of the flower as well. So yeah, that's a trillium. It's going to be typically in the understory of forest, in wetter areas is typically where I have seen them. Our last plant for this video is the fairy slipper. They are typically pink to purple with basal leaves, and you'll have to look closely at the forest floor to spot this tiny orchid. We planned for a loop on our trip back, taking us through the old mining town of Orogrande, but as we went higher into the woods, it seemed the snow from the past winter and numerous trees across the road might have something else in store for us. Well, I think we've reached the end of the road going this way. We were hoping to make a loop out to Orogrande, but we've just been running into lots of down trees. We're starting down a north-facing slope. We got a couple larger trees that we could get out of the trail, but then I think we'll be fighting snow, and sometimes it's just best to know when to turn around. So Orogrande will have to be another day. We'll be going back through Dixie and retracing a few steps, but sometimes the days go like that. After retracing our tracks and finding a spot for the night, it was time to fire up the Dutch oven for some carnitas. Alright, so what we have here is some pork for carnitas. I believe it to be a pork shoulder that was cut into pieces, and we're just putting it a little bit smaller so we can get a little more surface area. Tender this up. Oh yep, we're just going to brown this. First off, we're just starting with some salt, pepper, garlic, or what we call AP. We'll get these browned up and we'll be back. Some red pepper flakes, some oregano, some a little bit of cumin. It's got 1 cinnamon stick, a little bit of clove, and then we're going to squeeze a few mandarin oranges in because that's what we had. If you need to add any more seasoning, we got some of our stock taco seasoning. We're going to flavor up our water with a little bit of chicken stock flavor, chicken bouillon. And we're just getting this going on the stove, but we will be transitioning this over to charcoal for the remainder of the cook. So this just helps get a lot of nice heat into this to get it going. So we've got now that we've got this brown, the objective is just to braise it down over the next hour or two so that this is kind of fork tender. Those spices down in there. We'll rotate it a couple times. I am going to throw in the whole orange. We'll peel, we'll of course grab those out, but yeah, get all that in there. Okay, and I think for the topper, we didn't have any Mexican, authentic Mexican Coke, but this is gonna have to do it. A little splash of Coca-Cola and all the flavor that comes along with that. Not really a cola drinker, but flavor is gonna be good. Maybe just a little bit more water. You don't want it too wet in the end, but you want it plenty of moisture as it simmers away. So we're gonna get our charcoal going. See you back in a bit. Okay, we got our tumbleweed fire starter. We're going for about 16 coals or so. So we'll see what we have. Get this thing going. Oh, we ended up with 16, so we'll go with it. That's about what it takes to get a 10-inch Dutch oven with plenty of heat to simmer through the next hour or two. Better late than never. Onion and garlic is going in. We're gonna add a little more moisture. Get some of that flavor in there. Oops. Okay, our charcoal just about spent, but our pork is done too, I think, based on our last check. So, rotated this one more time, started to pull it apart. Liquid is braised down, so we still have some liquid, but look at that. Nice and tender. So, at least for me, that's what I'm looking for carnitas, is starting to break all that meat up into nice pulled pork. And it's another one of those things where, oh my gosh, you guys, if there was smell-o-vision. Okay, homemade 50-50 flour and corn tortillas are on the grill. We're gonna have leftovers if anybody wants some. All right, got our tortillas warm. Got our nice delicious pork and our homemade tortillas. Yep, they always get overloaded, so just don't even be surprised.
Okay, I better stop at that.
Alright, side of avocado, a little hot sauce. But this is going to be a nice set of meat for future carnitas now. So, breakfast carnitas, dinner carnitas, here we go. Alright, day 3 on our quick little adventure.
Exploration.
Yeah, exploration. Remote places of Idaho. Yeah, we're still up above Elk City. like you saw yesterday, we didn't quite make it around to Orogrande, so we ended up at the upper end of the Red River, which is beautiful little valley.
I love it. It's really cute.
So we'll show you around this campground just a little bit. It looks to be over 40 sites. 39 on the river side of the road, and maybe a few more on the other. There's pit toilets and really nice concrete tables.
And there should be water.
Yeah, they have not turned on the water yet this year, even though we're into June. So again, our quest for what is that season that everything is on. We never seem to find it, but pretty spot. We didn't need the water anyway. We didn't really even need a campground, but that was the spot we found. So just got to say, those birria carnitas. Yeah, the carnita tacos last night.
The best I've ever had.
Oh,
how about
man.
You?
Yeah, the seasoning was just right. Yeah, wow. We might do a longer video of the whole process separately, so this one doesn't get too long on the cooking side of things, but look for that if you're interested in the Dutch oven cooking of the carnitas. So
yeah, I think both of us can't wait to eat the leftovers. That was that good.
Yeah, at least 2/3 of it was left over, so we've got some good meals ahead. All that we've got left is the trip down the river. I guess we're going to stop in a couple other places and check them out since we're up and about, and we're headed home to pack for our next adventure. We'll see you out on the trail. Thanks for joining us going remote in Idaho on our trip out and back to Mackay Bar. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel so we can meet again on our next adventure. Until then, we'll see you out on the trail.